It's bourbonblog.com live cigar Saturday. I'm Tom Fischer. I'm here with my good friend and the co-host Matty Rock, joining us live from Saja's in New Jersey. How's it going, Matty?
What's up there, brother? How are we doing today?
It's going good, brother. How's all that snow looking?
Sheer misery. No one hates it more than I do. I just look at it. If I could literally go out there with the blowtorch, I would. Just wait to see me in the news. It's possibly coming, bro.
It's there might even be more coming. We know what is coming is some good flavor, an amazing chef. You may know him from FYI Channel's show that he hosts. Also from Food Network, he has many great restaurants in California. Slapfish being one of those that he's really known for. It's my pleasure to welcome to Cigar Saturday celebrity chef Andrew Gruel. How's it going, Andrew?
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
Hey, my brother.
Great to have you.
Yeah. Trying to get my am I in here? Am I good?
You're in here.
You're in here. Frame.
All right.
Come on,
good times.
Vogue. Yeah.
So
we're voguing it.
So Andrew, you're joining us from California tonight?
Yeah, I'm in Huntington Beach, California.
Yeah, and I've been hearing, and I spent a lot of my year doing whiskey events in Southern California, all over California. I've heard great things about Slapfish. I haven't been yet, but how have things been? I know it's such a crazy time right now for the restaurants, and I know you're doing a lot of great work for some charities there. Tell us what's been happening.
Look, I mean, California, similar to New York, right, and other states, we've been on a pretty hard lockdown. Restaurant industry really has been decimated, and that's not hyperbole. But things are slowly starting to open up. People are getting their vaccines. The government is starting to ease up a touch. But the fact of the matter is, in California alone, there was about 1.5, 1.6 million restaurant workers going into the pandemic. And over 1 million of those workers have lost their job.
Right. It's not so good. Obviously, we really have been feeling that too for all of our brothers and sisters in the hospitality industry, restaurants, bars. We see so many of y'all throughout the year, and we do feel it. You've been doing some really great work to really help out. Tell us what you've been doing.
Yeah. So what we did was, early on, we decided, okay, right now we got to stay alive, but we also got to utilize our resources to try and be able to help not just those in the restaurant industry, but we started right off the bat. Police, fire, EMT, all first responders eat for free at Slapfish. All kids eat for free because a lot of these kids don't have a school lunch anymore, so that they're either going to a food bank, and that's once again, I mean, that's the reality, especially even here in Orange County, which crazy enough is an incredibly affluent area, yet has some of the highest rates of cycles of homelessness amongst women and children. So we've been trying to kind of help the community, but we really took what we were doing in terms of helping locally, and we said, why don't we put a fund together where at least in certain circumstances where the unemployment agencies are completely gridlocked, which is what's happened here in California. You can't get an unemployment check for weeks, if not months. Wow. Why don't we create a small fund where we can give people money in denomination $500, $1,000 to at least bridge them to either the next job or to getting that unemployment check. So we started a fund called 86 Restaurant Struggle. That's exactly what we've been doing is we've just been connecting with people. It started originally in Orange County where we were helping locally, but we've been giving money out from New York to Michigan, all the way down to Florida.
Wow. And again, that's the 86 is 86struggle.com. That's the website.
Yeah. 86struggle.com, 86, the number struggle.com. You got it.
Excellent. And that name comes from what? I'm going to put it up here so everybody can see it. Where's the name come from?
Well, 86 in the restaurant industry is when you're out of something, right? So, Or even if anybody's been on the other side and they know when they get thrown out, it's like 86 this guy or this gal. 86 struggle, try and get rid of the struggle.
Right. I don't drink anymore because you hear that guy 86 him, so it's like, me? It's like, yeah.
Matty, have you that term, huh?
Maybe not. Let's just say it's a good reason that I've been well behaved for a long amount of years. And Andrew, what you're doing for people out there on the show, we're very, very big into celebrities who go out back into the world and give back, especially when there's these kind of difficult times. The dichotomy of COVID has been insane. Politicians have been putting stuff up, and at the end of the day, people are losing their livelihoods. The things that make mainstream America are going away. So I can't tell you how much respect and gratitude I have for you for what you're going out there and you're doing, and you're keeping Main Street America alive. And to us, that's an incredibly important thing, because when your neighborhood doesn't have little pieces, it's not a neighborhood anymore. You just changed the entire dynamic of a neighborhood is gone. So, me being a foodie for years and eat local, dine local, and take care of local businesses, all the respect and quant in the world, because what you're doing is you're giving people a chance and you're making lives better. And we appreciate you for that.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. It's like we've been in it so thick right now that it's kind of hard to take a step back and actually look at, whether we're having an effect, because it's just my wife and I, right? We've given out right now about $340,000.
Wow.
And in denominations of $500, $600, right? So there's a ton of scammers in there, So we got to call everybody's references, call all their previous employer, hear their story, listen to their tiers, make sure that it's legit. And it's like, that's a full-time job. So we've just been churning and churning and churning. But you know what? It's been really, it's been awesome to get to know so many people, restaurant owners, right? The people who make the restaurant industry, the employees, the dishwashers, et cetera. Those are the people that are out right now. Those are the people that are really screwed.
Right. And I know it's one of those things that we heard a lot about it in the beginning of the pandemic, but it still really is a thing. Do you think that people really realize in general that aren't in the industry how big it is? Do you feel like you really have to keep putting that message out there to help them understand?
Yeah, exactly. It's hard because here in California, for example, they just reopened outdoor dining. Now, understand this. Outdoor dining was totally shut down. It's 75 degrees and sunny here. Our tables, for example, 10, 15 feet apart. I mean, we got parking lots, just bigger than Giant Stadium. But they banned outdoor dining. So when they reopened outdoor dining, everybody's like, oh, you're good. Like, everything's good, right?
Right.
It's like, I wish, but there's a lag, right? There's that lag effect.
Right. It's going to take some time to get things back anywhere close to where they are. And we really appreciate everything you're doing there, Chef. Again, 86struggle.com is the place to go. What kind of help are you looking for? I mean, would people go to this site? How can they get involved?
What I found is that there's really 5 ways that you can help at least us, right? First and foremost, any donation helps. $5 is awesome. $2 is awesome. Second, sharing the fund, right? Because I've calculated that pretty much with every share, we garner about $40 or $50 a share, right? So if you take the amount of times that the fund has been shared across the amount of money, it's about $40 or $50. So that's huge. And then there's 3 other ways that you can help your restaurant community without having to put any money up. Number 1, engage with their posts on social media. As you know, across the Instagram, Facebook algorithm, engagement breeds more engagement, right? That breaks through the algorithm. So just commenting on posts, whatever. Number 2, leaving positive Yelp reviews for businesses. I mean, that's huge, right? Or any review, Yelp, Google, as much as I don't want to feed the beast. And then number 3, just not using delivery services. Those are really the 5 ways that you can help the industry internally and externally.
So well said, and such an important thing to do. And we have so many viewers that watch Cigar Saturday every Saturday, and we appreciate that. Everybody take a moment and make sure you bookmark that, share it on your social media. Take a moment and just share this show as we are live. The goal would be to get everybody who's watching, give that charity a few dollars, just whatever you can give while we're live. Let's make an impact, because we love giving back at Cigar Saturday to all the people in hospitality. So definitely share this. Take a moment to like and share it right now.
Right on.
Yep.
Right
Remember,
on.
everybody, ladies and gents, give back. It's your community. So what Andrew's doing is for your community to thrive. So again, without these restaurants that have been there, 10, 20, some of these, especially out here in the East Coast, 60, 70, 80 years. Tom, you and I have spoken about it. Andrew's originally from out here. Imagine a world we kid around without Rutt's Hut or Johnny and Hanchu's or some of these staple places that have been serving up people for almost a century.
Wow.
Super important. again, that's the cornerstone of your community. So super important.
And you got, and look, good man, good call. I got to throw it out there. I'm a Jersey boy, so I don't want you guys to think that I'm out here in California rubbing hemp all over myself. I'm a Jersey boy.
Can it be both?
You could have it both ways. In California, you may get some hemp thrown at you from time to time, right? Gonna happen.
There we go.
Right now, somewhere Cheech and Chong's ears went up, perked up a little. Man, what's that dude talking about, bro? Oh no, something about hemp, man. Cool.
Well, we are getting some questions already for Chef Anthony Gruel, and please ask away. We are live right now with celebrity chef Andrew Gruel, and if you have any questions for Andrew, ask them down below. Already some good Jersey questions. Are you a pork roll or Taylor ham, Andrew?
Oh, I love you, Tracy.
Oh, all day. Look at that fish. She's such a wonderful lady. Taylor ham, egg, and cheese. What are you talking about?
Yeah, the pound.
Dude, I grew up.
You hear that? Are you out there, people? Taylor ham. I want to hear your nonsense.
My spot.
She says, "Love you too." Very good. You've been out in California for how long then? How long have you been out there?
10 years.
10 years. Tell us a little bit. I know your story is a very special one. I know I probably get asked on a regular basis, but tell us a little bit about your background going from the food truck that became the permanent there. I think it's a great story.
Awesome. Thank you. Really quickly, is my connection okay? Because I can switch networks. Is this good?
Yeah, we can hear you great.
Okay, right on.
Thank you.
First I got to say too, when I went out to California, I was 6'8". I'm 5'9" right now. So there's that. But also, yeah, I came out to California. I only came out here for 2 years. I started a program at the Aquarium of the Pacific. It was a nonprofit, right? So I just left. I'd been working in Asbury Park, opened up a bunch of restaurants there in Asbury Park area, and economy took a dump 2009, 2008, and started this nonprofit because that's really, there was still nonprofit money out there, and we got a grant from the Pacific Life Foundation, and the focus was sustainable seafood. I'd always been into the ocean, wanted to be a marine biologist, but I wasn't good in school, so the closest I could get to that was really being a chef who worked with seafood. So we start this program out in California, and the one thing I realized, and the mission of the program, granted it was through an aquarium, is to get people to eat more seafood, but more of the right types of seafood. And one thing I realized is when it comes to seafood, right, you've got on the one end of the spectrum, fine dining, white tablecloth, right? On the other end of the spectrum, greasy fried, Long John Silvers, etc. Which nothing wrong with Long John Silvers, but just saying. But every other genre of food has that, that better burger, whether it's Shake Shack or that approachable, barbecue, etc. Nothing like that in the seafood world. And I said, that's why we aren't eating as much seafood. Per capita consumption of seafood, we're like one of the worst countries in the world. And then, simultaneously, we've got high hypertension. 6 of the 8 leading causes of death in the U.S. can be alleviated through a more regular consumption of healthy omega-3 fatty acids, primarily found in seafood. So coming out of this nonprofit program, I was like, look, I created all these relationships with fishermen and aquaculture operations in the seafood supply chain. I'm going to, take a page out of my book from being a young kid and learn that cut out the middleman, you can get a better deal, right? So I said, I'm going to start buying all my seafood direct from the source, get a food truck and start slinging fish tacos and lobster rolls out of a food truck, but fine dining quality at the cost and convenience of fast food. So that was really where I launched Slapfish. And the only way I could do it was out of the food truck, because who the hell was going to give $200,000, $300,000 to some guy in the middle of a recession for a constant, like a harebrained idea, right? So we went from 1 to 4 food trucks in like 4 months, and then got a lot of exposure as kind of one of the first food trucks to do this, and then bought out an old dilapidated bagel shop, turned it into our first location, and then grew from there. Amazing.
And I think that's such a good point. I love seafood, and what you're doing with the whole concept. Is that something that you see since you've really carved this niche out, that you think others are going to be hopefully finding a way to get something that's more of that high quality experience with seafood, but not at quite those prices? Is that something you hope to see, that you are seeing?
Yeah, we've got people now. Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good times. We've got people now who come in and they're like, look, I found my spot. We liken it to sushi, right? Everybody's got their sushi spot, And sushi actually opened the door for more seafood consumption in the U.S. And we've got now customers that we're finding that are like, I want to eat more seafood. We just need the option of it. And I've seen other people kind of following our path. A lot of people say, hey, look, they're ripping off your concept. I'm like, no, all boats rise with a high tide. Seafood consumption's up. So interestingly, I made that point earlier on. The per capita consumption of seafood is up about a pound a year now since we started back in 2011 or 2012. So good news all around.
Wow. Wow, and it's really gone up as far as a nation. We've really been doing more seafood.
Yeah, a lot more seafood. I think people are recognizing that like frozen seafood isn't a bad thing. And I think there's just so much misconception, right, about seafood. Where's it coming from? Does it have mercury, PCBs, And the scary thing is that behind oil and automobiles, our third largest trade deficit in the United States is seafood. We import so much of it. So the irony is that we're losing. We've got that trade deficit. We're not consuming enough. If we actually raised our own seafood and bought U.S. wild or U.S. farm seafood, increase the consumption, it would take care of economic issues as well.
Which of those questions are important to ask? Because I do hear those questions too. Hey, if you're a pescatarian or you do too much seafood, the mercury and where's it from? Which of those questions should we really be asking?
We should be asking the whole farm versus wild question is BS, right? Just so you know, most seafood in some form or another starts off in a farmed environment. Like all Alaskan seafood starts off in ranches and is released into the wild. It's called stock fortification. So the farm versus wild debate, that's bunk. That was from like 20 years ago. The real question you want to ask is where it's coming from, right? And I say that because the FDA only inspects 2% of all containers, all seafood that comes through our port. They can't inspect everything, right? So what you're finding now is that all the tainted seafood that's coming in is imported primarily from places like China, Vietnam, Indonesia, et cetera. And I'm not saying that those countries don't regulate well, but, we've got a much tighter regulatory framework here in the U.S. So try and buy it from, Mexico, Canada, United States. Try and buy actually aqua farm seafood in any cases is better than its wild cousin because the wild seafood is exposed to a lot more of these heavy metals that we find in our benthic environment. So where it's coming from, once again, and actually look for farm seafood, especially when it comes to shrimp.
Farm seafood, especially shrimp. You said Canada, U.S., Mexico. Yep. Any other countries we should put at the top of our list?
Yeah, New Zealand does a really good job managing their fisheries, Australia. So I look for logos, right? When you're looking at wild seafood, there's this little thing. It's called the look here. Whoop, hey. It's the MSC logo, right? Marine Stewardship Council. And then on a farm side, there's a logo. It's called BAP. It's a blue logo. You want to look for one of those logos, and that's kind of like, remember the old like fair trade logo you find on coffee or the WWF logo. Not the Wrestling Foundation.
We have some of those friends that come on from time to time. So, awesome. So are there places that you would say, I mean, again, in general, that you don't like buying seafood from?
I don't want to vilify anybody. I'll just focus on the positive because in every negative scenario, there's always a little positive. So I don't want to throw any blanket statements out there.
Right. But the ones that you put at the top of the list, we'll certainly look for. Another question. Again, thank you, Tracy, for your questions. I'm going to bring that up here. What would be the best way to prepare frozen seafoods? Any favorite ways to prepare frozen seafood?
Oh, yeah, just microwave it. No, I'm just kidding. So with frozen, and I bring up the frozen seafood piece because everybody thinks frozen like, oh, it's not fresh. Let me just tell everyone right now, all seafood has been frozen. It's frozen right on the boat, right? No matter what, you got a boat that comes in fresh, it's right out of the water, it's frozen on the boat. Whether it's thrown into an ice slurry and it immediately freezes, that's what you got to do with seafood, right? So this idea that frozen is bad is just a misnomer. The key is you got to thaw it properly, right? So you take a piece of frozen fish that's been instantaneously blast frozen. All sushi has to be frozen. That's how they kill the parasites, right? And then you just line it on a stainless steel sheet pan and let it sit out at room temperature. That'll instantaneously thaw it. Then pat it dry, right? There'll be some runoff. And then from there, it's almost like you've unfrozen time,
All right.
See, I learned something today, Tom, because, I've been getting my sushi from the Passaic that Andrew knows well. Maybe that's so I'm not doing real well lately. But I tell you, those big three-eyed fish are nice. There's a lot of meat on them.
Back when I was in Jersey, I just used to get my fish out of the back of a Cadillac off of
Hey, how you doing? You want some fishes? It's good stuff, kid. Come here. I want to show you something.
Good times.
All right, so another good question from Deanna here. What's a good seafood dish for someone who hates seafood? She says she's asking for a friend.
Yeah, great question. Go with like firmer, meatier fish, right? So mahi, tuna, like an ahi tuna, a swordfish. That's a great kind of gateway fish, if you will. Another one that you can find now frequent in a lot of different places is a fish called barramundi. It's an Australian sea bass. That's another one that's just incredibly mild, fat flake, really sweet. But the key is even with fish like that you're kind of using as, like I said, like a gateway fish for people, just go heavy on the citrus and the acid, because you need that acid to kind of cut through the natural fatty richness of seafood. And sometimes it's to us aficionados, we love that fattiness, right? Like a mackerel or a salmon. That's what gives it that beautiful flavor, that rich mouthfeel. But to somebody who's just getting into seafood, that's also what can make it somewhat off-putting. So with a lot of acid, vinegar, citrus, cut through that richness, that's all you got to do.
So many great questions, and so much we're learning about seafood, and really just about what Chef Andrew Gruel is doing. Again, it's Bourbon Blog Live. You're watching live. Make sure you share this on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and when you do both, like this or love it. We hope you love it if you're on Facebook. When you do both of those, you share it. We put you in the drawing for one of those wonderful bags of coffee from our friends at Janice Coffee Roasters in Wyoming. We'll be talking about that a little bit later, but you'll get a free bag if we draw your number randomly drawn at the very end of the night. But keep on asking those questions, sharing this video. Okay, so another question. And I love seafood, and I've eaten more and more over the years, Chef. I've read, and I don't know how true it is, there's this story that says, okay, tilapia, it's tasty, but it may not be as good for you as other fish. Is that true?
Yeah, so that comes from a headline where they did a study, and a lot of the farm tilapia from a little over a decade ago was just being jammed with like soy and corn. And effectively, there was a headline that came out, I don't remember, it was in like Nutrition Magazine, and it said that tilapia is worse for you than bacon, right? And it was, once again, I mean, sensationalized headlines where they were using like one aspect of its nutrition. Since then, there's been a lot of new tilapia farms that have come out where they've adjusted the feed to make it incredibly organic. They've added a lot to the feed to make it more nutritious, and they're raising it in its wild environment. So, for example, there's a company called Regal Springs Tilapia. They've got operations in Ecuador, Mexico. That's where tilapia is. A lot of that lake tilapia is indigenous to some of those Central American areas. And, of course, Africa was originally where tilapia kind of was harvested. But what they're doing is that they're raising in these wild environments, but it's confined so that they can control the feed. And that's really, really high quality. So if you go to any fishmonger, ask them where it's coming from. If it's coming from Ecuador, Mexico, Peru, it's a good product. If it's coming from China, I wouldn't buy it. Okay.
So not all tilapias are going to have that same health value that we may have seen years ago. I think that really did some, I mean, for a lot of people that I talked to in the food community, that whole story did some damage.
Well, look at my first restaurant, Bacon Tilapia. It was a terrible failure. I mean, just the worst. Bacon Tilapia, we didn't last 6 months. I should have done my homework. Very disappointed.
We're debunking some of those seafood myths. We're actually slapping some of those seafood myths in the face, aren't we? To give you several puns in one. Okay, the name Slapfish. Somebody wants to know where the name Slapfish came from.
Fish so fresh it'll slap you.
It'll slap you. I love it. It's
slap some fresh in your face.
It's a great name. And so not all fish, when you think about seafood or seafood restaurants, it doesn't always have to cost you a fortune. That's what Chef Andrew Gruel is trying to do, is put together some great quality recipes for his restaurant as well. And we're hoping we see more and more of that. Outside of California, where else do you see people taking a hold of this this trend of finding a kind of that good middle ground to give you something that's not a fortune, but that's delicious?
Yeah, and we've got, we're seeing a lot of restaurants pop up in small communities, and going back to the, kind of small inland communities, and going back to the piece I mentioned about frozen, is that, you can have the best, highest quality seafood in the middle of the desert. So,
right.
you know, that cliche that, oh, nobody eats sushi in the middle of the desert, like not necessarily true. Some of our strongest locations are in Utah, New Mexico. Our number one location overall is in Indianapolis.
Really?
Because we've got spots across the country because we've franchised it out to independent owner operators. Yeah.
Wow.
And they love it because they're like, wow, I can't get this quality fish. Because most restaurants in those areas that aren't coastal, you know, fish is kind of like an addendum, right? They're trying to augment their menu with like a fish dish, but they're not really focusing in on it. So that's where we've actually been able to kind of penetrate that market a little bit more.
Andrew, that's not too far away from where I'm based. I'm based on the border of Indiana and Kentucky. So tell me about the Indianapolis. Tell me about the Indianapolis location.
Yeah, so we've got one up in Noblesville, which is kind of the north side, and then we've got one downtown right on Mass Ave. And then we're actually opening a full service finer dining raw bar, oyster bar right there as well. Wow. In Mass Ave.
Cool. And that's under the Slapfish name as well.
Yeah. We call it Raw Bar by Slapfish. So, right. I mean, another topic for another day, but oysters, man, you can go. Oh. That's like a genre of food that is.
I love oysters. We can talk oysters even now. We can talk about it another day, but we can talk about it now if you want. Actually, one of my favorite.
I'm waiting for the Paramus location to open. I'll be there. He'd be like, this guy eats a lot of oysters. Like, yep.
I love oysters, Andrew. I do an event every year in Virginia, actually, called Oyster Roast Bourbon Toast. It's been going on for 7 years, and we've been doing it in Manassas, Virginia, for 7 years, and we pair whiskeys that I curate along with some really amazing oysters caught just off the coast of Virginia. And man, I love whiskey and oysters together, especially ryes, some scotches, bourbons. Do you have any, whether it's oysters or any fish, do you have any favorite whiskey and fish pairings at all?
Yeah, so I am with you 100%. What I like to do is, I call naked oysters and dressed oysters, right? So basically the naked are just as is, and then a dressed oyster. Now, a lot of people think you dress the oysters because the oyster might be old or you're trying to mask the flavor, but quite the contrary. I like dressing the oysters so that then I can start pairing some beverages better with it, right? So I personally, we do this awesome like ponzu dressing where we finish it with a little Tobacco right on a fat Eastern oyster belly, and then I'm a Johnny Walker Blue guy with that.
Yeah. I like the Johnny Walker Blue. What a great pairing! It's that little bit of that smoke and also that sea influence from Scotland coming together with that salt, that brininess of the oyster. Delicious. That sounds like a delicious pairing. Have you had any of the, and we'll talk a little bit about whiskeys and then we'll get to some more of your questions because we definitely have a ton of questions for you here coming in. Ever had any of the Jefferson's Ocean bourbon with any of the fish that you've had?
No, but I'd love to try that. And by the way, I'm already inviting myself to your next event. So
yeah, we're going to make sure once we get back to California, we're going to get together. We're going to make some good things happen with whiskey and seafood because I love whiskey and seafood. Jefferson's Ocean is actually aged partially on land in a warehouse. Then they put the bourbon barrels basically on the back of a cargo ship, and it has a sea influence for about a year with the bourbon rocking around in the barrels. So that saltiness comes through. I'm also a big fan of rye whiskey with salmon and with some of the other seafood that's similar to salmon.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Really good whiskey and like fattier seafood go really well together, like an Arctic char or even a black cod, a sable fish with just like a rich miso butter on there. That's where I start drinking the whiskey as if it's like a glass of wine, and the next thing you know, I got my pants around my ankles behind a 7-Eleven.
Pants around your ankle. I like it. All right, that's a
Jersey thing. I'm sorry.
It's a Jersey thing.
You could take us out of Jersey, but you can't take the Jersey out of us. Sorry.
Well, I'm thinking about pants and the sea. We were often taught in Boy Scouts that if you didn't have a life preserver, you could actually blow up your pants and use that as a life preserver. I don't know if anybody's ever tried. I guess it can work occasionally.
Something bad would have happened.
It might not be so good. I'm tasting a little bit of and again, if you're a fan of Cigar Saturday, I'm a big fan of the Peerless Rye. Have you tried any of the Peerless Rye, Andrew?
I have not, no.
Beautiful stuff from Louisville, Kentucky. I'm pairing that with my cigar, but I love doing it with seafood as well. Okay, we definitely have a lot of great questions here. Again, Tracy, I can tell Tracy really enjoys the seafood. Thoughts on smoked oysters?
For me, they're just really, really hard to light. No, I absolutely love smoked oysters. That's it. Those are like, you give me a jar of smoked oysters, and like I'm the happiest person in the world. And I like to do the smoked oysters almost like a bruschetta on toasted bread. You know, I mean, I'll break some serious boundaries here, and I'll even say with the smoked oysters, I'll put those and I'll do like a remix of an oyster Rockefeller with just a nice aged Parmesan on top. You get that umami from the Parmesan. Now I know cheese and seafood, they don't do it, but we're going to break rules.
I like it. Well, and that's one of those times you can, right?
Yeah.
Now I'm in the mood for char-broiled oysters. The whole oyster thing is going. I want to go to Drago's now. Let's go. Come on, guys. Go.
Oh, I love oysters Rockefeller. Okay, Aaron Hardiman watches this show quite a bit. Andrew, how do you feel about aquaponics?
I think it's the future, and the fact that it's not on the top of everybody's mind. Aquaponics can quite literally feed all of those people who are dying of hunger in the world. And for those who don't know, aquaponics is really just the combination. It's a biodynamic combination of growing lettuces and herbs and seafood, and effectively it's a closed loop system, right? So basically you've got the fish poop. In the poop it releases nitrogen. The nitrogen acts as the fertilizer, and then it just automatically feeds all the vegetables, and then you can take the vegetable scraps and then you can feed it back to the fish. So it's a closed loop system. It's one of the most efficient ways to cultivate high quality protein in the world in a small setting. You can do it you can do it vertically in an urban setting, and it's all over.
And what are you seeing happening? Are you seeing this more and more? Are you seeing it? Is it catching on more and more, you think?
Well, what's happening is that aquaculture as a whole, from a commercial perspective, has gotten a really bad name. And it's gotten a bad name because the wild seafood industry, and I love them too. These guys are my friends as well. They put a lot of money for years into campaigns to basically demarket aquaculture because they were their competitor. And that's where you start to see the headlines about how farm fish is going to kill you and this and that. So because of that, a lot of countries, specifically America, that has the innovation and the money to be able to start commercial aquaponics systems, never put a real framework in place to regulate and control the industry from a commercial perspective. So we're way behind the ball right now. That's the problem. Who manages it, right? The Army Corps of Engineers, the NOAA, the National Marine Fisheries Service. There's still no framework for it, so you can't even get anything permitted.
Excellent. All right. Okay, we had another question. Okay, George Morosky, best basic seasonings for seafood. Any favorite seasonings? There's so many of them out there. What do you like?
I mean, I go back, and it's not necessarily a seasoning, but I just want to reiterate going back to the acid piece of this, right? And by acid, I mean citrus. I'm not talking about tabbing it, but obviously this citrus zest as well. But when it comes to just straight clean seasoning, I'm just an ancho chili guy. I love different paprikas in place of like a black pepper. I think black pepper sometimes with seafood can be a little too bitter and too overpowering. So that's when you can kind of start to get into some of those paprikas that are a little bit milder and they kind of blend into the fish better. Sea salt and maybe if you want to get crazy, go with some like allspice.
Small spice, right? Great, right on.
Just listening to that. So when you see George, we've had him on the show. So out there in California, that is the creator of the 5 Monkeys barbecue sauce. What's going on there, George?
Yeah,
so George is thinking now. I smell smoke. What are you coming up with next, there, George? You tell me.
It's good to have George watching. All right, so obviously, Chef Andrew Gruel, known for many things, especially Slapfish, but you also have a pizza restaurant, Big Parm, and also Two Birds in Irvine. Tell us a little bit about those.
So the chicken spot we use 100% Shidori chicken, which is basically that one is never frozen, locally grown chicken, and it's not pumped with any moisture, so it's it eats like an old school chicken. And by that, I mean it's gamey, right? Chicken that hasn't been treated at all has that natural, real flavor to it. So it's an incredibly high quality chicken. So what we said was, okay, we're going to get a real high quality product, but we're only going to offer it 2 ways. You can have it grilled or fried, or you can have it as a salad or a sandwich. That's it. Hence the name Two Birds.
And your Big Parm? And
the pizza joint is I call it Jersey style pizza joint, right? And everybody says, why is it Jersey style? Well, if you know, which I'm sure, Matty, you know, the real pizza started in Trenton, right? And then it went across the river and it went into New York City. So true New York style pizza is really Jersey style pizza. So Jersey has the ownership of that style of pizza. But here in California,
remind them that the Grimaldis came back to the New Jersey side of the Hudson. Just saying, guys, you listening? The Grimaldis are in Jersey.
Exactly. It's real. It's Jersey. It's Jersey style. And out here in California, so what we did was we just did a Jersey style pizza joint by the slice, right? We do dollar slices. All of our own. We make our own dough. It's a 48-hour fermentation, so we make it and we let it slowly ferment. Real, like a real yeast fermentation on a good high quality dough, and then we do our sauce everything's scratch made. But then the key is we grate up Reggiano cheese, and then we actually, before we top the pizza, after we put the sauce down, we put Reggiano on top of the sauce, and then we top it all, and then we finish it with Reggiano as well. So thus the Parm, right? Big Parm. It's also the take from, remember in what was it, Friday? Like, what's up, Big Parm? Big Parm.
It's the true Jersey style pizza. Does anybody? I mean, of course, I know the story about the Jersey to New York thing, but does anybody say Jersey style pizza? Are you seeing that said more? Is it's one of those things that's more of that secret?
I say it out here to just to be a jackass. And in California, I can get away with it. If I did that in Jersey, I'd probably get smacked.
But Jersey style, Jersey's the thing. Look, we had Peter Genovese on the show, right? Jersey pizza said the same thing, Andrew. He's like, hey man, it's not New York. It's like even New York, prominent New Yorkers kind of hang their head and be like, yeah, Jersey pizza.
Well, so let's back up. You had Pete Genovese on the show?
Yeah, man.
What's that? Yeah.
He's like, I think he's blocked me on Twitter because he thinks I'm a stalker girl or something. Because that guy is my.
No, I will tell him to unblock you. We went down to, like I said, so you know all the Jersey stuff. So we went down to Krug's, had a burger over at Krug's, and Krug's, when it comes to burgers, I'm gonna say our good colleague and friend that asked Mr. Carl Ruiz, I'm taking you for the best burger you've ever had. And I'm like, I'm skeptical. He's like, you're gonna shut the fuck up. You're gonna pick me up, and we're gonna go to Krug's, and then you're gonna tell me. And it was the best burger, also on Pete's best burger list in New Jersey. And again, back to what I said about local business. I mean, you can't lose a place like Krug's. It was owned by Jake LaMotta, and 3 generations later, it's still owned by the LaMotta family. So you talk about really important to keep these places in business that have solidified the community and made your neighborhood the neighborhood that it is. And now I'm thinking burgers too. This is why I'm a husky bastard. So I will get Pete to unblock you.
I'm just kidding. I don't think he blocked me, but maybe he did. But
I just want to see what he said. If he's just like, you hurt my feelings, man.
I track every single. I've got every one of his books. Actually, when you walk up to Big Parm, you've got his most recent book. I bought like 5 of them, and it lines the cash register. People are like, "Are you selling these?" I'm like, "Nope." What's your connection to them? I just stalk him on Twitter. I've been following him for years. Star Ledger.
Yeah, he's the best man. He's the best man. Good people. And then again, another Jersey thing. K.S. Kinchley's is numero uno. So I want to start. Shit, come on, Andrew. You're from Jersey. Numero uno. What do you think?
I'm not getting to get political here.
All right, we already had starting shit on the tail of ham and pork roll. So all right. I mean, tail of ham, pork roll.
That's always seems to be a question that comes up. And again, if you're just joining us, I see a lot of y'all join us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. It's Bourbon Blog Live Cigar Saturday. It's celebrity chef Andrew Gruel. Ask any questions you have. Make sure you like and share this video. Also, the audio will be up later on our podcast, anchor.fm/bourbon blog. If you're a podcast fan, make sure you check that out for plenty of whiskey and cigar interviews you can just listen to on the go. All right, Chef, with Valentine's Day coming up, I did have a question here, looking for something that's a fairly simple seafood recipe, but that would impress, someone for Valentine's Day. Any simple seafood recipes that would really be something that would really impress?
Yeah, so what I like to tell people is, seafood's all about texture, right? So the key with that is that because it's, by its nature, it's kind of mushy, right? And we don't realize how much texture influences how we like or dislike food. What I always say is a simple recipe is just throw your oven on 350, right? Get a nice fillet, whether it's salmon. If salmon's a little too rich for you, go with like a halibut or even a cod. I'm trying to think of East Coast fish here as well. Any type of East Coast rockfish. Just rub it down gently with a little bit of extra virgin olive oil. Hit it with salt, pepper, some fresh herbs chopped up, and then bake it in the oven for about 15 minutes. While it's in the oven, take a bag of kettle chips, potato chips, and just crush the hell out of them, right? Take a hammer, put it in a Ziploc bag, or just do what you've always wanted to do as a kid and pop the bag and start doing that. When you pull the fillet out of the oven after 15 minutes and then brush it down with Dijon mustard and then pack the potato chips on top of the salmon. Throw a little horseradish in there if you want to get silly, and then throw that back in the oven. Pull that out after another 5 minutes, top it maybe with some grilled shrimp or something. That's a dish where potato crusted salmon, you get the fun of the potato chips in there, throw a little shellfish to maybe for that umami, and just a good, solid, easy dish, quick cleanup. You're not worrying about searing it on the stovetop and making it stick or anything. That
sounds amazing. And again, when you baste it with the Dijon, just put the Dijon right on it. You don't mix the Dijon with anything. That sounds really. What do you call that? Is there a name for it?
Yeah, potato crusted salmon.
Potato crusted salmon. That sounds so good. And you use regular potato chips, maybe some that are horseradish flavored. You said. You could. I mean, you want to get silly, do some salt and vinegar. Depends, right? What's your potato chips brand? Nice. I like the kettle chips too. I like those. Those are really good. That would be really nice on that. Sounds good. I like it. All right, those are some great tips for your Valentine's Day. I've always been a fan of like I get them sometimes in the Carolinas, the seafood dips, the trout dips.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes you have a favorite way of doing those?
Yeah, great question, especially leading into Super Bowl. We just started putting some of these together. So we've got two dips here. We do a smoked fish dip and we do a lobster dip, right? And the base is the same. And what's cool about this too is anybody who's watching or listening right now is that use this foundation not just for seafood. If you can do it with chicken, you can do like a buffalo dip. You can do anything. If you're a vegetarian, a roasted pepper dip. But just do like 1 part cream cheese, 1 part sour cream. Maybe half a lemon squeezed, zest and juice. A little paprika, chili powder, salt, pepper, fresh herbs, and then mix in and mozzarella cheese, right? Shred it yourself, mozzarella cheese. Then mix in either a smoked trout, mix in some chopped lobster, chopped shrimp, anything you want. Like I said, you can pull a chicken, mix in some chicken and some buffalo sauce if you want like a buffalo chicken dip. Throw it in a pan, microwave it for like 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes to get it molten and just meltingly tender, and then top that with some crushed potato chips. Best dip in the world.
Wow. Very nice. Now, you mentioned cheese just now, and you mentioned a little bit earlier how it kind of is, some people say it's a little bit of a faux pas to put cheese with fish. I guess it's not always true in your book. Is there a reason why people say that don't put cheese on top of fish? When do you think it's acceptable? When is it? What do you think?
Yeah, the traditional reason, being an Italian here, my grandmother would smack me if I ever did that, but it's just because the flavor of cheese is so complex and the flavor of seafood is so delicate that the complexity of the cheese would overpower the fish. But that does apply, I think, in more finer preparations. But like our number one seller here at Slapfish is a lobster grilled cheese, half crab, half lobster, cooked to a melting tenderness. It works. Cheese works a lot better with shellfish because shellfish is meatier. It stands up to it a lot more. I would never put cheese on like a flounder or a fluke or a halibut. And then there's also the kosher element too. Cheese and shellfish is obviously isn't kosher at all.
You got to see when it actually matches up, when it works. But when it does work, it can really be something really good.
Yeah, I'm feeling guilt about my fillet of fish with cheese now. I'm just feel terrible.
Well, you should only feel terrible because you're that fillet was probably pulled out of the back of a Cadillac.
Just might
possibility. Holy roll. Get about it. It's okay.
Any talking bourbon, or whether it's bourbon, vodka, whatever it might be, spirit wise, are there any spirits that you enjoy infusing into fish dishes?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, back to bourbon, right? So I actually do like to, when I love smoking fish, and it's something anybody can do easily at home. I mean, you just take a little aluminum foil pan and soak your chips in a little bit of bourbon. You don't have to use a high quality bourbon, right? But you get a little whiskey in there in that chip, and it does add to a particular smokiness, which then I think goes along really well with so many different, kind of a breadth of flavors when it comes to bourbons, whiskeys, rye, etc.
Yeah. No, I think it could really work well. The ryes, the bourbons, the sweetness, a little bit of that alcohol can work quite well.
Yeah.
So many good questions coming in. Any other questions for Chef Andrew Gruel? Please ask away and keep on sharing and liking this video. We're going to pick a winner of that coffee here in just a few minutes. I do want to make a quick note that if you go to bourbonblog.com/coffee, you will find the new coffee, which is a partnership between us at Bourbon Blog and also Shad Bates and our friends there at Janus Coffee Roasters. They roasted some wonderful coffee, and then they put it in a used Breckenridge bourbon barrel. And we'll have Shad on at some point to talk about that. But there's a limited number of bags available. So if you want to make sure you get your bag, which is a great pairing for a cigar, make sure you go to bourbonblog.com/coffee. It's been a long time in the making, and it's a delicious coffee. You're going to love it. And do keep on sharing this. Man, Andrew, it's so great to have you. I want to make sure you, I know there's some people that maybe didn't hear at the beginning. Again, give one more plug on the 86struggle.com. I know you all have really been working hard. You've done so much great work. You've helped so many people in the hospitality business that have been out of work and that are still out of work.
Yeah, 86 Struggle is really, it's what's become of the fund that my wife and I started in the middle of December. So not even too long ago, where we were just trying to raise a little bit of money, and we were matching a lot ourselves. And we were also, doing special features here at the restaurants to generate money to donate. And people have been donating products. So it's kind of like everybody's involved in this. But, giving people, bridging them to their next step. So many people had their jobs ripped out from underneath them. And then at least here in California, the unemployment system is totally on shutdown, right? So there was upwards of like $40 billion with a B, $1 billion in unemployment fraud. So the coffers are empty. And people lose their jobs. They've got no place to turn. They don't know what to do. They can't get unemployment. So we're trying to really bridge the gap. And it even goes beyond financials. We're also working with people so that they can even understand how to apply for unemployment benefits. The interesting thing is these people who have lost their job, they've never applied for unemployment, right? Like they've never not had work. And the only thing they know is the restaurant industry, and the whole entire industry is shut down. It's not like we got the industry was shut down and they said, here's a check, we're shutting you down. It was more like, we're shutting you down and figure it out. By the way, unemployment's broken. So that's where we created 86 Struggle. Once again, over $330,000 we've already distributed, raised the same amount. Right now our goal is $1 million, and we're not going to stop until we hit $1 million. Probably won't stop after that.
Well, and I was going to ask you even, what will the long-term effects be? And just so we can all have on our brains, how much more will we need to keep on supporting? I mean, this is something we'll really need to support local restaurants for a while, right? I mean, this is something that just, even say 1 year of this, nearly 1 year, will really affect people for quite some time, won't it?
Yep, you got it. It has fundamentally changed the entirety of the restaurant industry. And in many cases, after decimating the restaurants, not only, they're being replaced by operations, right, who can afford it. And I'm not trying to kill the corporations here, but a lot of these multi-unit massive corporations, they're going to now take that cheap real estate, the demolition man joke of having a Taco Bell on every corner. And the thing about those corporations is that they've mastered artificial intelligence. So a restaurant that once had 15 people working there, replace it with a Taco Bell, and you might have 3 people working there because they've got the self-serve kiosks and everything is automated, or they're coming through from corporate. And look, I don't want to get political here, but I'm going to at least put a fact out there, especially in California. 70% of the restaurant industry is undocumented. These are the guys that make up the backbone of the industry. And like it or not, you can't just say, screw these people, right?
Right.
So they cannot apply for unemployment benefits. They are totally, I've got families with children who were born here, who are kind of living in the shadows, and these kids had no Christmas gifts. They're nothing. And we used a lot, not the money from the fund, but we ended up spending way over $1,000 to buy Christmas gifts for a lot of these kids, etc. These are people who have made the industry. New York City, it's the same thing, right? Anybody's worked in the restaurant, they know the truth.
And it's I had a club, I had my club, and I had an executive kitchen. So believe me, I know. So it goes back to a mantra that we have here on the show that really came to light during COVID. It's like, eat local, and it's for a reason. Go to your neighborhood restaurants. These are the people, these are the families who served you, who made your neighborhood what it is. So that's what that's what you're essentially going out there and doing it. So you see below struggle.com, $1, $5, whatever you can afford. Just like Andrew said, share it out. The more people that know and understand the conflict that the entire industry is in, is COVID has absolutely decimated it. And it's perfect because you have coast to coast people. He can tell you what's going on in California. I can tell you and promise you what's happened in New York City and right across the river in New Jersey. Dine local, do what you can, take care of your family institutions that have been a pillar of your community for a long time. And don't forget your roots and who you are and what your community is made of, right? So remember, everybody.
Look at that 86struggle.com and certainly donate it to it. And we want to do all we can to spread that word on bourbonbelong.com. And we appreciate everybody who's taking a chance right now to share this, to like this. You mentioned, restaurants being replaced with self-serving kiosks. Is this sort of thing your biggest fear of what might happen out of the result of the last year or so?
Yeah, my biggest fear, if somebody, that's a great question. And I'm going to go even bigger than that. My biggest fear right now is that there is a pandemic within the pandemic, right? Or an epidemic. And that epidemic is going to be the general nutritional value of the food that we consume in the United States. When you rip out these restaurants that are independent, one-offs, these are all scratch-made ingredients, right? And you're replacing them with computer food, I call it. So what's the next step there? And we've seen even through the virus, right? Is that it's attacking people with obesity, diabetes, etc., at a rate much higher than those who are a little bit healthier. And a lot of that comes down to the food that we eat. So that's what I'm afraid of coming out of this pandemic is you've wiped out these small independent restaurants. They're getting replaced with multi-unit, massive corporate restaurants. Domino's, the Pizza Huts of the world, which, look, I love Domino's. Like, don't get me wrong. And I'm still going to go. I just had McDonald's this morning. I'm not asking everybody to be a total purist, but we still also need to understand and work into our purchasing behavior that healthier food, right? That scratch-made food that doesn't have all the chemicals.
Right. That's so important. The pandemic within the pandemic, it's so important to keep that in mind and to also just know that, we have to continue to support local, natural, freshly made food, which is going to be so healthy for us. And we'll continue to push that word. And we appreciate everybody who's taking a moment to share that, 86struggle.com. I got to get up to, hopefully we'll see you at some point in the near future when we're back in California, Chef. But in the meantime, I got to get up there and see what you guys are doing in Indianapolis. And well done for all the Slapfish that you're doing throughout the country. Amazing stuff you're doing. I know you've done a lot on TV throughout the years. Food Network, FYI, any new projects on the TV front from you we should be looking for?
Yeah, I guess we are actually working on a show right now that does revolve around this fund. It's come together pretty quickly, and it's some feel good content. So that's a fun project. I can't really announce too many details on it. But my wife and I are also launching a food podcast that we're going to be calling American Gravy, aka Ketchup. and then really it's just about, for us, for me, and for TV and everything moving forward, it's really just about these restaurant stories. So any way that we can platform these stories is how we're gonna do it.
Excellent, Chef. You're doing great work, and we definitely want to have you back on as things continue to unfold, and let us know how we can help you continue to support what you're doing there. And go ahead, Matty.
I was going to say, and talking about how COVID has ravaged everything, Tom, I want you to give a shout out to ladies and gentlemen tuning in. So as you may or may not know, those who tune in know, Tom is usually on the road for more than half the year, educating the public on fine spirits and bourbons and doing pairings all across the United States in restaurants and everything else, and pairings with cigars. So obviously with COVID, Tom's not able to be on the road and do that now, but you can do it virtually, just like what we're doing here today. And Tom can put together events for you virtually online where you can do pairing. If you guys need cigars, alcohol, take it from here, Tom.
Thank you, Matty. And so glad to have all of you that come back every week on Cigar Saturday. And as Matty said, I'm usually hosting a lot of tastings from California to New Jersey throughout the year. We're doing that virtually now, whether it's smaller events, bigger events. Sometimes we do small groups, big groups for companies, or just a gathering of friends. Take a look at our website there, bourbonblog.com/tastings, and learn how you can be one of ours. We'll taste you through a lot of whiskeys. We can even send you the whiskeys. And if you have just a Zoom meeting that you're really bored with, and you can convince your coworkers, we'll find a way to get everybody a little bit buzzed on their Zoom meeting. That's always a good thing. They can always thank us for that, which we appreciate doing.
Pants optional. Just saying. Just throwing it out.
But it can happen. Especially when you can just sit there and have a few whiskeys with us virtually, like we're all doing tonight. But so many good people shared this tonight, and we're so glad to come at you. We've almost been coming at you for a year. Matty and I have every Saturday night.
I had a crew cut and I was clean shaved. This is crazy.
You were clean shaven in the beginning, huh?
Hey, imagine clean shaven, crew cut. Look what's happening. It's crazy stuff. Now full hippie mode. So good stuff. And guys and gals out there. So everybody, if you're not already following Andrew, you can follow Andrew Gruel on Twitter, Instagram. I know there's a chef page on Facebook, and you can follow Slapfish and let them know if there's anything I'm missing, Chef.
What's the best way to follow you, Andrew?
I'm a real loudmouth on Twitter at Chef Gruel, and Instagram is really all about the food porn and scratch and sniff food porn. But hey, really quickly, I want to thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. It really is an honor, seriously.
Yeah.
And number two, I also want to offer back to you that feel free at any time to throw out to all of your listeners and your fans that they can have a lobster roll at a Slapfish whenever you want to give it away. It's your checkbook to write at any location in any amount of lobster rolls or even a gift certificate. So, if I can contribute that back to you, just use it, please.
Thank you. We will do that. And we appreciate it. We really appreciate your support. We want to help keep supporting you and all the great work you're doing. And definitely stick around once we go offline, stick around for a few minutes, Chef, afterwards, and we'll talk about other ways we can support you. But for the moment, for all those that did like and share this, for your chance to win that free bag of coffee, we'll have Chef pick up a number between 1 and 41. Pick out a number between 1 and 41.
6.
All right. Number 6 was to get that free bag of Janice Coffee Roasters Bourbon Barrel Aged Coffee. A random number has been assigned. It is Michelle Chikachi. I think that's how we say her name. She asked a few questions. So congratulations, Michelle. You won that free bag of coffee. Just message us on Facebook. Let us know where to send that. And thanks to all who have been watching tonight. Matty, who's our guest next week?
Next week, we have the lovely ladies of the Lounge Experience coming on. So we'll be talking a lot of cigar talk. So all my cigar peeps out there, we're going to have an awful lot to talk about.
All right, and we'll do that next week. Same channel. If you're not already following the channel, make sure you follow it. We'll bring it to you. Chef, thanks for joining us tonight here on Cigar Saturday.
Thank you so much. Really is an honor.
Thank you,
Much
Chef.
love and
Thanks,
appreciation.
everybody.